Hi, and welcome back to a podcast above a convenience store talking Twin Peaks. I'm Joe Fremming from the Joe Down. With me, as always, is Paul Muad'Dib. How you doing, Paul?
Mr. Jackpots.
Hello!
Hello! I'm doing good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk especially this episode of The Return. It feels like a sleeper, but there's a lot of things going on here.
Yes.
And I think let's jump into it. What do you say?
I like it. I like that.
Because
yes, let's
feel this is Blue Rose. It's as blue as it comes.
This is blue. It doesn't get any bluer.
Yes. Oh God. This is I just want to stay off with the bat. I just love that for the rest of the season, we get like pretty much a buddy cop movie out of Cole and Al.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And I just love how curmudgeoned, Albert has been, but also how much he's softened over the years.
He's softened with edges, man.
Yes.
All right. This episode it's part 4. It's titled "Brings Back Some Memories." This is a quote from Bobby Briggs we'll get to, and we'll get to some memories that brings back, like when he shot that cop to death.
He shot that cop to death.
Bobby killed a cop.
Bobby killed a cop. Let's keep that in mind while we go through this entire episode. Bobby killed a cop.
I don't think we've let up since the beginning of this podcast.
No, Bobby. I think this has been a rolling thing with it. Bobby killed a cop. Because it's important. It's important because we're going to get to something really crazy here.
But before we get to that craziness, we're back at the Silver Mustang Casino, where our very confused Agent Cooper is just mopping the floor.
Oh, he's fucking up that casino so bad.
I would imagine in real life, security would have kicked him out after the second jackpot in a row.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Possibly the third.
Not the 20th.
Not the 29th. Or 30th if you count the one he gives to the nice old lady.
Yep, he points to that again for her, and she goes to it, and he's earned the nickname Mr. Jackpots.
And while he's there, he gets recognized by an associate. His associate is obviously Willem Black from Mallrats.
I love this cameo.
Maybe, do you think he finally saw the schooner, Paul?
No, and it's a sailboat.
It's a sailboat.
There is a sailboat.
You know what? There is no Easter Bunny.
That guy over there, that's just a guy in a suit.
Yeah, we're getting like kind of into the crazier cameos. When this was going into production, it seemed like everybody wanted to be in it. Yes. And they pretty much got everybody to be.
Yes. And just the interaction between Dougie Jones, Bill, and Candy is just awful.
I think he wants to go home. Dougie's lost, and Bill. It's funny when we'll see this with Dougie or Cooper. It's basically Cooper. Dougie has been melted into a golden ball, like we talked about last. So when they're talking to Cooper, they're just talking to a blank slate who just repeats what he hears. So it's like they're just having a one-sided conversation. I can imagine it gets quite flustering for people. Well, the viewer, the first time along for me, this was like one of the tough things to kind of wrap my head around was the Dougie character.
Yes, and I have to say, on the second watch through now, I love it. I'm actually enjoying it and laughing my ass off during this. The thing with Bill and Candy, Bill's like, yeah, you need to go home. The red door. And Candy's like, I think something's wrong with him. And Bill just doesn't give a shit. And the part where Cooper wants to take his hot dog.
Yeah, and he's like, I haven't eaten since breakfast.
So funny. So, yeah, that happens, and then he keeps saying he wants to go home, so then he starts to leave, and the casino's like, wait a minute, where the fuck is this guy going? Which would have been the easiest thing in the world. Just let him go. Just let him go. We didn't know who he was. But they are determined to give him his winnings.
Yeah, was it Brett Gilman plays the hapless casino manager?
Yes, that is him. And he does, I just love it. You come back very soon. Or some night.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's trying to do like a macho thing, but Cooper's just mimicking him. So he just kind of backs out. Because he thinks Cooper's like sizing him up too.
Oh, God, so funny. So they give Cooper a limo. And he can't give him an address. He's just telling him about a red door. And the limo guy's like, I don't know what to do. Anything look familiar?
And there is something. He lives on Lancelot Court.
Yes.
Which is Gastonbury Grove and all that. It's all kind of shades of like what we got in the past. Kind of we're getting kind of like nods and winks here for that sort of thing. This poor limo driver just driving around at night trying to find a red door. There's Cooper with this giant sack of money, which I'm pretty sure casino's just going to write you a check.
Yeah, I was going to say, they just gave a fucking burlap sack full of thousands of dollars. Oh my God. So eventually the driver's like, I think this is it. And Cooper doesn't know what to do when he gets out, so he just stands there with the driver.
The driver just stands with him like, I'll just hang out here with you, buddy.
Oh my God. Like I said, I didn't know what was going on the first time I watched it, but the second time around it's just like, oh my God, I know what's coming. So this is great. And in comes fucking Naomi Watts, Janie E., who anytime she does something with Lynch, she is phenomenal.
Yeah. Before Janie shows up, though, we do see an owl.
Oh, yes.
We get a hoot, and we see an owl, and the limo driver's like, I hate those things. They spook me or whatever. But it does catch Cooper's attention, kind of giving us a hint that Cooper's in there somewhere. He just... it's like he's trapped in this body.
Yes.
He'll have moments of recognition. It's really slowly played out. But again, like on the rewatch, it's a lot more entertaining because you get to take in more of the humor instead of trying to like, when's Cooper coming back? Like once you know that's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the quirk. This is the new quirk. And I like the new quirk.
Janie is, she's not happy. Dougie's been gone for 3 days.
Miss Sonny Jim's birthday.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
And the best part is, like, this is Dougie's wife, and it's... it takes her, like... Not until morning to realize not only he has a different haircut, he's lost a lot of weight too. Yes.
And so she's chewing him out, and then they kind of have, I can't remember exactly how it goes, but Mr. Jackpots.
He points at himself.
Mr. Jackpots. And she opens it up, and she realizes that he's won like $400,000 off of slots.
Which is just, God.
Well, and when you think about it, now I'm not a big gambling guy. I don't really enjoy gambling, but I've been out to the casinos. I can count on my hands the number of times I've been out to a casino. But when you put in just like a single quarter, you're not even playing for the max bet. You're going to get the lowest amount. So him playing single quarters and winning $400,000 is nuts.
Oh God, yeah. Well, at least they kind of explained like, that's how it's the 400,000. You had to hit like 30 jackpots on this.
Right? And just fuck this casino over. Then we get something interesting. She talks about the debts and they can pay it off. And we don't know what's going on there yet.
And she even does, we can pay them back, which sounds ominous.
Ominous. Yes, we could pay them back.
And now we get, Denise is back.
Denise is back. And did you catch who plays Bill?
I saw, he looked familiar. Who was that?
That would be one Richard Chamberlain.
Oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm. Richard Chamberlain.
Again, there's so many cameos in here.
So many.
And so Cole is visiting Denise, who's now the chief of staff of the FBI.
Yes.
And he's basically there because he wants Tammy with him and Albert.
Mm-hmm.
This is kind of like you're going back to Secret History around this time. I think this is when they're having her go through the dossier.
Yes,
we don't see her on screen.
Yeah, and I think that's what we kind of realize is that she's being groomed for Blue Rose.
Yeah, and it's he's telling Denise very loudly that they found Cooper. It's in a federal prison in South Dakota. And Denise keeps like, yeah, you got to type, Gordon. Like, he's like, what are you getting at, Denise? Getting a little defensive.
Yep, and she calls him out for liking the girls in their 30s.
But he responds, he has enough dirt on her to fill the Grand Canyon.
And he's never used an ounce of it.
And when when Denise was going up in the ranks, he also told the schmucks, higher ups, to fix their hearts or die, which is one of my favorite quotes.
Yes, this is so progressive. And the fact that he laid the groundwork for this 25 years, like, this doesn't feel like pander. You know what I mean? He set the groundwork for Denise being an excellent FBI agent back, in season 2. Yeah. And now you got where this character went. Like, this makes sense. Like, there is a connection here. And it is really, really great to see that person in the trans community is being represented this way. And even at something as important as the CIA, or the chief of the FBI.
Yeah, it's and it's Denise was really good at her job. We saw that because when we saw Denise last, Denise was in DEA.
Yep,
and made the jump over to FBI again and rose, and now she is Cole's boss.
Yeah. And, I got to say, for me, maybe it was me liking Denise so much, but I also got the feeling, Lynch really played the people's acting kind of loosey-goosey in this series, I felt. And I felt that you very much got to see how much David Duchovny enjoyed being Denise.
Yes. Yeah. I think David Duchovny really loved that character.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is also a show that set the groundwork for what would be his biggest claim to fame, would be X-Files.
Which would be the X-Files, yeah. So he owes Lynch basically his career.
Yeah. Denise, and I love how they've always treated this character with respect. It could have been easy, especially in the early 90s, it would have been very easy to go clownish and kind of dickish with it, and they really didn't.
No. Lynch was ahead of his time on this, and it really goes to show. Yeah. So now we got Lucy on the phone.
Oh my God.
With Sheriff Truman about the thermostat. And she's trying to understand how a thermostat works when no one's in the building.
Lucy, it still works. It's
It's so great. It's so great.
And then we find out Lucy isn't very good with technology at all, especially with cell phones, being around for like the last 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Still struggling with the concept that you can be mobile and talking to somebody on the phone.
So Sheriff Truman walks in and she freaks out, falls out of her chair, and Andy's pissed at the Sheriff Truman. And he's like, I was just outside. Come on, my reception died. I had to come in.
Oh. And I also just want to add that Andy and Lucy and what we find out is Wally have the weirdest family photo at her desk.
Yes.
It looks like the worst Photoshop job I've ever seen.
And when we go, let's talk about that, because there are some conspiracy theories about this. Because they don't think that's Wally. When you look at the Secret History, yes, all the retcon stuff, there is a fringe fan theory that the original baby was Tremaine's and died, and Lucy lost the baby, and that Wally came a couple of years after, but it doesn't make sense because of what they said, that the last time they saw Cooper was when Wally was born. So, yeah, but that's something that people looked at that photo because it really was like, this doesn't make sense. This is something here. No, it's just quirky. It's bizarre. Yeah. And the fact that they'll have a more recent photo of their kid is even better.
But it fits with Andy and Lucy. Mm-hmm. It's not like they have a cell phone to take a picture of them with.
And to be clear, this is not Sheriff Harry S. Truman.
Nope. This is Frank, who we briefly met in Secret History. The book kind of laid the groundwork as there's two Trumans. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, and it's played by the always amazing Robert Forster.
So great. Every time he's in something, I'm just happy to see him.
Who was originally supposed to play Harry S. Truman in the original Twin Peaks. Or he was up for the role, but he couldn't do it.
Yep.
Which would have been a totally different Harry than we know. So I'm kind of glad that's not how that played out.
I agree. Although would you think they would have had the affair with? Could you imagine the affair between Josie and Robert Forster?
Yeah, it's just like he's just such a different kind of actor. It's and we wouldn't have had the dynamic between the same dynamic at least between Cooper and Harry.
I agree.
Those two had such great on-screen chemistry. Yeah, but Robert came back for 25 years later to pick up the mantle of a Sheriff Truman.
Sheriff Truman. Then we get to see that the offices of the sheriff station in Twin Peaks has evolved over the years.
Yeah, they actually have lines 911 operators,
and they have a whole crew of police officers now in this tiny little town, and the sheriff station, whole bunch of deputies.
Yeah, the world expands. The world is growing of Twin Peaks, and we meet one of these new officers. Oh, Chad. Oh, Chad.
You can tell right off that we're not supposed to like Chad.
He's a schmuck. He's a schmuck. And we're also learning that there's drugs still going rampant in Twin Peaks. Some things never change. Kid ODs at the high school.
We've heard that story before.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was the dancing kid.
Oh, God. Dancing guy, he's older now, and he's dancing away somewhere else, Paul.
They should have brought him back for the fucking Roadhouse. So, yeah, we hear about this kid, and it really bothers Truman. And as he's walking by, we see someone familiar, Joe.
It's Bobby. It's the guy who killed a cop.
The guy who killed a cop. A guy who tried to kill Leo Johnson. A guy who was running cocaine. He's a deputy.
Well, I mean, Paul, given like the people we knew in high school who were probably running cocaine. I don't see this as too much of a big surprise.
You know, it's funny. I'm not going to say names, but I know a guy who didn't run coke, but he ran weed, and a lot of it, and he's now a fucking state trooper.
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
And so, but Bobby, he has to run to the bathroom because you know, that also seemed like another callback of when Cooper.
Yep.
The
teeth are floating.
He had to take a giant piss.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got Andy explaining cell phones to Lucy, and then Hawk filling in Truman on Margaret Lanterman's clues about Cooper being missing.
And Truman seems, interestingly enough, okay with this.
Yeah, I think. Well, he's a Twin Peaks. You know, he's from the town, so it'd be. I think there's a lot of high regard for Log Lady, even though she's been banned from the sheriff's station because of her love for that gum. and like stashing it under tables, as we saw she was doing in, I think it was like either the first or second season. Norma accosts her about it.
Yes. Now, I want to bring up a little bit of the backstory of Frank Truman, because as much as we talked to him on the Secret History, you bring up a really good point, because he was, so Harry S. Truman was named after Truman, and Frank was named after Franklin Roosevelt. So he gave, according to Twin Peaks lore, Frank Truman gave Hawk his nickname.
Yeah.
And he was
not happy about.
No, but he carried it, and he was on the football team. He was captain of the football team alongside Harry, Ed, Hank, Thad Barker, and Jerry Horn. So there was a lot there. Then he left and went to the Vietnam War, came back to become sheriff, and then left, and then that's when Harry took it over. Yep. And then, so yes, I think you're right. I think he's very well attuned to the woods. I think it's also implied that he was a bookhouse boy, and so yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like when Margaret gives them a warning, he's like, "All right, we got to take this seriously," which Chad doesn't want to, and Frank basically tells him to get the fuck out.
Yeah, nobody likes Chad. It's just he's just such a prick. I think it's either next episode or the episode after. We'll find out he has some shenanigans going on in Twin Peaks too. That he's not a good guy.
No. So, Andy and Lucy enter, and they also defend, the Log Lady from his shit. And then Bobby comes in and sees the photo of Laura, which gives us our title for the episode. And he does a pretty convincing job of being legitimately upset.
Yeah, and this is like one of the few moments of fan service we kind of get. This episode has some weird fan service. We'll get into it with the thumbs up from Cooper.
Yes.
It's just like, this season, like, if you want fan service, you got to earn it. This was one of those ones, I think it was like, here's a free pass. And it's like, he sees Laura's picture, and then Laura's theme kind of just whooshes over the soundtrack. And he's like, it brings back some memories. And I'm sure it did. I wonder if it brought back the memory of the time him and Laura killed that cop.
Over baby powder? Over baby formula?
Laxative.
So, and then we find out that Bobby was the last person that he brings up, that his father, Briggs, was the last person to see Cooper alive, which Truman and Hawk, this is news to them. And so now they're thinking, okay, we got something here. Something weird's going on. Then Officer Jesse comes in and announces that there's a Wally Brando here.
I fucking hate Wally Brando. This goes back to probably like my irrational hatred of Michael Cera.
Okay.
Like, I've only liked him in Arrested Development.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't mind him in Superbad, but like he's always just been playing George Michael to me. And I can't stand that. It's just like he's a one-trick pony, and it drives me batty.
However, I did like him in Wet Hot American Summer when he played the attorney.
Yeah, he has his moments, but he just bothers me. This is one of those things. He's just one of those actors that I really just don't like. And like you get this extended scene, like so they all walk out, and there's Wally Brando, pretty spot on with his like Marlon Brando get up from the Wild Bunch.
Wild One.
Wild One, yeah. And he's just. I just wish that motorcycle would have flown off a cliff, like how I wish that would have happened with James.
Okay. I did not like Wally Brando my first watch through. This watch through, I appreciated Wally Brando more. You really get the sense that there's something Lodgian with this kid, because this is definitely Lucy and Annie. Like, he is nothing like his parents, and he gives this big speech, and yes, he's doing this Marlon Brando impression, and Truman just thinks the whole thing's awkward, but just kind of the way he speaks and the way he's talking to him, like, hey, you know what, this is your dharma, that's my dharma. It was just kind of like I could see where Lynch was trying to put some stuff in there and make a little bit more weighty with that character. That said, there is also another conspiracy, that we talked about, that the baby died, okay, shortly after childbirth, and Frank hired an actor all their life to be the kid. This is a serious, a fringe, I shouldn't say serious, but a fringe theory on this thing. Like, people do not believe this is Andy and Lucy's kid. It is essentially where you go.
If this conspiracy is true, I'm going to quote Walk Hard and say wrong kid died.
Wow, brutal.
This is obviously Andy and Lucy's kid. I mean, look at his fucking parents. Like,
yeah,
they're goofy as shit, and they have this goofy kid. He's just obnoxious. I didn't like this character. I still don't. There's two low moments of the return for me. This, and then we'll get to the other one. It's a callback. I got so angry I had to take a walk.
Oh, okay. I'm interested to hear that when we get to
it. You know what spoiler, everybody.
Oh, I know what it
comes back with his stupid song.
I know what it is. Okay, I thought there was another one, because I thought we didn't talk about that one. I got you. Okay.
But we do find out Harry Truman is Wally's godfather.
Yes. Yep. And Truman just kind of goes off. He's just like, I can't with this kid.
That's how I felt too. Like, me and Truman are in the same boat with that.
Yeah.
Let's get away from Wally before I before I have an aneurysm from rage. Let's go, because we go to Dougie Jones. It's morning. His clothes are laid out for him like a child.
And God, that's an ugly fucking suit. Can we say that's an ugly suit? That's an ugly suit.
Oh, yeah. And just that lime green jacket.
And it is way too big for him.
Oh, I mean, he dresses like Trump with the oversized suits.
Well, at least he's more likable. And I thought about this what you said our last episode when I was watching this particular scene, and you nailed it. Like, you really, really nailed it when you said he's a toddler. He's an infant. He's a blank slate. He doesn't even know how to urinate in the toilet.
No. And he had 25 years of urine to unleash in that too,
He's doing the pee-pee dance, and Janie's treating him like he's a 6-year-old child and takes him to the bathroom.
This really makes me wonder what Dougie and Janie's life was. It really that much different than this?
This is the thing. There's such a crazy dynamic between those two. I want to see that. Like, make someone, Frost, write that book. Like, write the book about
the Joneses.
The Joneses. Living with the Joneses. Make it happen.
Because she doesn't ever seem like there's anything wrong with him. She just gets mad because he's not doing what she said. It's like this is Janie's life. Like, I mean, I guess this Dougie's not that different from the Dougie from before.
No, and then she gets him dressed, and she's like, "You have to do the tie because I can never get that right." And at this point, is it this? Yeah, it's this point where Cooper's looking at the floor, and he sees the red room.
Yep, Mike is trying to contact him.
Mm-hmm. And he tells him something.
It is credited as Philip Gerard in the credits. So
okay.
I don't know. I'll just call him Mike just to keep that. We've been calling him Mike since.
So let's let's talk about that, because he says something very important, which is basically one of them has to die.
Yep. He informs him you were tricked.
Yep, you were tricked. Now one of you has to die.
And now Dougie has to pee.
And then that's when Dougie goes to take a pee.
Oh,
so God. He's trying to put this tie on, and we meet Sonny Jim. Sonny Jim is special because Sonny Jim does not care that his dad was not at his birthday. So it makes me think this is a chronic thing with Dougie. Dougie just takes off for 3-4 days around important events for Sonny Jim because he just cannot handle them.
Yeah, well, he had to get those 2 rides from Jade.
Jane, you mean Jade gives 2 rides?
And then it's so he has a kid and he gives him Sonny Jim gives him the thumbs up, and we get kind of a Cooper thumbs up.
Kind of a Cooper thumb. Like, there's a couple of things here that I know Lynch was gonna, was baiting the audience and saying, okay, this is when he's gonna snap out of it. Like, this is gonna get him out of it, Yeah. Because there's a couple of things here. It's the thumbs up, and what else, Joe?
Well, for me, there's a couple. He's looking in the mirror too, which was another one. That's an obvious bait. We know Bob isn't in there, but it's just like last time we saw Cooper staring in a mirror, his face is all bloody, and he was wondering, how's Annie? And then the other is, let's get to the other here, because Cooper comes down the stairs to one of the greatest uses of Take 5.
Yes.
I can't. This is one of those songs that's so perfect for this scene. Like, I couldn't imagine another song used.
No, this was perfect. And he's got the tie wrapped around his head.
He's just oh God, this whole scene just had me just tears in my eyes, just because Sonny Jim has to teach his dad how to eat pancakes.
I know. He's watching him. He doesn't understand it. And Sonny Jim just thinks he's being funny. No, it's my dad. It's Dougie.
Oh, but then we get to the second, is this when Cooper's coming back? And Janie puts a cup of coffee down. It's the first word he says that I don't think it was a repeat of whatever other people says. He literally says coffee.
Yes. And then he takes a
sip, burns his mouth, and then, because he only knows so many words, he just says, "Hi!"
He sits out. He's got coffee going on. She turns around. What is going on? Hi! It just ends on the perfect note. That whole scene, is brilliant. That is absolutely the humor, the sense of humor of Lynch that I love.
Same here. It's just so well done. Again, using Take 5. Mm-hmm. It's just the rhythm and everything. It's so fucking hilarious.
Think about it. They could have had the rights to any fucking song, and they do Take 5.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of the few times within the show, it's not an Angelo piece.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's kind of interesting that they did that, but it's so hilarious. And then when I first watched this, when it was airing, and it just cuts out, I was like, oh, I bet Cooper's back now.
Right, because
No.
that's what you think. Because you think he's snapped out of it. He's come to his no. We're not, dear listeners. We're not going to fuck with you like the show did. No.
No. And so we do get some more information. There is a hit on the body found at Ruth Davenport's place, but it's military authorization only, leaving the Buckhorn Police Department now has to deal with the federal government.
Yep, and that, which we'll find out later, sparks something.
But now we got Cole, Albert, and Tammy in South Dakota, where a clearly distraught Gordon Cole realizes they're nowhere near Mount Rushmore.
So what did Albert do, Joe?
He printed out a picture of it for him,
knowing full well that he was going to ask about it.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Faces of Stone.
So
and then
great.
And then Albert tells Cole that Tammy, she gets car sick, to which Cole replies, Cossacks are in Russia. We're in South Dakota. We finally see Albert at his wit's end and just yells.
Which scares the driver. And we learn that Tammy she gets sick in cars.
Yeah. Oh man, I could just, this should have been the Buddy Cop show spinoff.
Absolutely.
Twin Peaks. I could watch David Lynch and Miguel Ferrer on screen with each other for hours. Like, just the dynamic between these two. This is also kind of fills in the gap too from the original show, because they're basically operating as kind of like the Harry and Cooper relationship here of
yes. Yeah, I caught that right away too, and it's brilliant with these two characters. Like what this needed. So they go to the prison and they find out why he's being held, because of the contents of his trunk,
where there's a bunch of coke, a machine gun, and a dog's leg.
just the most bizarre thing.
But they all come into play. They all make a certain sense, especially the dog's leg. That does actually become
like, you think it's going to be one of those weird Lynchian things that you're never going to learn about. Oh, you'll learn about the dog's leg.
Yeah, we don't find out about the coke or gun. No.
Because we could guess what the cocaine and the machine gun were for. We could deduce that, but the dog's leg, we're going to find out what that is for sure. And they finally get down the interview. Joe, talk about this interview.
Cooper greets them with backward talk, and it's very subtly done. He says he's very happy to see Gordon Cole. I missed this the first time I saw it, but I don't know about you, Paul, but I went on message boards and stuff after these episodes aired to see what people's theories were, and some people picked up on it right away, and he says very backward.
Yes,
and I should have realized that because Cole brings it up later.
Yes, and I didn't catch it at first either, but when I watched it for this episode, I always have my subtitles on now because I'm old and I'm crotchety and I want my fucking subtitles, and they actually spell it out backwards in the subtitles as well. So if you had subtitles on, I would imagine that you would have caught it.
Yeah. Precisely. And it's a weird. Mr. C's voice is very strange here.
Very strange.
Very slowed down. It feels like it feels almost like Lodge speak. Except it's not backward, except for the one word. But he's very monotone. He's just really odd. This is It's one of the only times I think in the return we see Mr. C like this.
I would agree with that. And the cadence of his talk is very slow, and he repeats himself.
Yeah, he's like a broken record.
Now, I have a theory about this, and it's because we know that Bob is in him, and Bob doesn't like to be locked up. And I think Bob is causing some conflict internally.
I think so too. Bob is not in control at this point. I think Bob is usually at least running the show, or at least. But I think it's either the next episode we get one of the most bizarre cameos.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll talk about it then, but it's just like we find out that Mr. C is at one point concerned about whether Bob's with him or not.
Right. And so, yeah, because he talks about how he was working undercover with Phil Jeffries, which very blatantly upsets Albert.
Yeah.
And he was on his way to tell Cole about his activities when he had the car accident, and he repeats that line. And you could tell also that Gordon knows that there's something, this isn't the Cooper that he knows.
Yeah, and he realizes there's something going on with Albert because Cooper at one point, Mr. C says he's left messages, indicating like I've left messages at your kind of like at your office or something, or with the bureau, and Albert gets kind of a shifty look on his face. If we remember from I believe it was the first episode, Albert's posing as Philip Jeffries.
Yes.
To Mr. C.
To try and control and try and get him in. So as they're leaving, Cole makes the suggestion that Cooper make his phone call, because he asked if he's gotten his phone call yet. They're like, nope, he hasn't gotten his phone call. He's like, you let him have his phone call and you let us know what it was. Like, he makes it very clear that they are due tap this phone.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Unless you're calling a lawyer, and even then, prisons cannot absolutely monitor a prisoner's phone call.
Absolutely.
There's no right to privacy once you're in a prison.
Nope. No, you give up that right. So then Cole sends Preston away. Go away, little girl. It's kind of dismissive.
She's not happy about it. And this whole scene is bathed in a blue hue.
Yes, and you also get some old boys club sexual kind of reference going on there. It seems like as much as they're progressive about Denise, this particular scene and the way that they're staring at these two old men are staring at Tammy Preston's ass.
Yeah, it's
it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Considering how Cole was in the original series and how snarky Albert is, it wouldn't even feel in character if they wouldn't have done something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think maybe there was a reference to this is what it's like for women. Like this, we've established Lynch is very progressive in his beliefs. And so I think there's something deliberate there that he was trying to say, and it may have been misrepresented. But anyways, Gordon turns his thing all the way up. And
so he can whisper.
Yep, so he can whisper. And it is very serious, this conversation. Very, very super serial.
Yeah, he was not happy with the interaction with Cooper and Albert. He picked up on that pretty quick.
And
troubles him.
Yes. And you find out that Albert, that he had authorized, that Jeffries had reached out to him at some point. And Cooper needed information about their man in Colombia. And after Albert gave the information to Philip, who gave it to Cooper, that guy was killed a week later.
Yeah, which would have landed Albert in really hot water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he got upset. He got probably either an informant or a federal agent killed.
Yes. Yes. Not the best look for Albert.
But there's also Cole. He's confused. And this is where it gets back to the very thing. He says, "I don't think he greeted me properly," and Albert did pick up on that too. The backward talk. They've been investigating with Blue Rose the
long
lodge
enough now.
entities and stuff, so they're well aware of that these things exist. And we find out later that they've had interactions with them.
Yes.
And Albert shifts his feet, which damn near kills Gordon Cole.
God. Oh God.
But then you go back. Gordon is very serious. I don't understand the situation at all. And he's like, ask Albert, do you? Albert just says Blue Rose, to which Cole replies, Paul.
Doesn't get any bluer.
And now they need to get somebody in there to talk with Cooper. Albert doesn't know where she lives, but he does know where she drinks.
And then cuts to the roadhouse, and we get Simone, I can't even say it, Simone playing Lark.
Yes.
And which really, like I said, that was my first introduction to them, and I absolutely adored them. Something to note as well, I noticed that this particular episode was not dedicated to anyone.
Yep, I noticed that too. My Blu-ray set also, this was like the last two episodes, it was presented as a double.
Yes.
Episode, so that might be part of it.
That might be exactly it. Yes, because on my set as well, it says episodes 1 and 2 are to be played together, and 3 and 4 to be played together. Yep.
But yeah, this is there's a lot to unpack here. So Blue Rose is now back. We don't know much about what they know, but they do know something is up with Cooper. They don't trust him. They actually have the cops. They're like, we can hold him for 24 hours without any charges, or 48 hours. Cole's like, do that. They can't let him out.
Yes.
If he gets let out, he's just going to vanish again.
Yep. They know that this is not a good thing. And we will find out more about this as it goes on. And so again, 1 and 2 were supposed to be played together. 3 and 4 were supposed to be played together. They were released all at the same time. And what is your take of these first 4 now? We're going back through it. We discussed it. What is your take on the 4 at this point?
So when I rewatched The Return, for the first time, I remember sending you a message saying, I honestly, after like knowing what's to come, and I was like, I think it was 4 episodes in, I think this is probably the most straightforward thing Lynch has done since Straight Story.
Yeah.
It's I mean, there's a lot of mystery and stuff, but it's pretty like, there's tons of surreal stuff, but it's also pretty straightforward with it. Like,
yes, that's something I wanted to mark in this particular part 4 especially. There isn't a lot of the symbolism, the metaphor, the esoteric. This is a very straightforward episode. Outside of Wally Brando, everything is pretty much what you would expect in a story. And I think this is one of the great things, because this show does so well, is the balancing act between them. Because there's a lot of shit that happened in episode 3 that we tried to explain on that last episode, but it's so hard to verbalize it. And then you get to this one, and it's like, hey, we can explain this entire episode because this is normal. Yeah. This is a straightforward episode.
Yeah, even with the surreal moments. And then, because after episode 3, it's not until like part 8 where we get a lot of the unexplainable surrealism.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun episode to tackle.
Yeah, but this is kind of like this is Twin Peaks, and it's straight. And I just remember like being baffled again when these first aired. I binged them, these 4 episodes on Showtime, leaving me utterly baffled because I didn't know what to expect, and I certainly didn't expect this.
No, I did not expect this at all.
And so yeah, and so on rewatching and then like rewatching the series and outside of like episode parts like 3 and part 8, and a lot of it is pretty straightforward and it's surreal and has like this is not like the kind of like the weird randomness that kind of happens in Lynch's stuff, especially with like Lost Highway and Mulholland. It's very even though it's all over the map timeline wise, it's pretty linear too.
Yes. There you are able to follow the story for the most part, and for the things that you can't, on the second watch through like we're doing now, it makes a lot more sense to me. I'm able to catch a lot of it. I'm able to put a piece of it together. This is something that I think when you watch the first time, you get a different experience than when you watch the second time. And it's amazing to have that on an 8-part. I mean, I would akin it to somewhat of The Usual Suspects, right? There's all this stuff that on your first viewing is laid out there for you to find, but you don't know what you're looking for, and you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know what those things mean. And so you get to the end, you go, whoa. The difference, though, in this one is that rather than there being a twist, which there is a twist ending, let's be fair, there is a big twist ending at the end of this series.
Yeah.
But when you go back and watch the second time, it's like that experience, but I feel like it's somewhat richer because you're still able to have an interpretation at the end of what's going on, but you can catch all the clues and where it's going to be leading you to. So yeah, it's a deeper experience watching it the second time.
Yeah, and you get to catch more of the humor, like I especially the first time through, since you don't know what's really going on with Dougie. It at times became kind of frustrating because you just kind of like, well, what is this? Now that we know what it is,
yes,
I can enjoy it more.
Yes, because
I'm not like waiting for when the shoe drops, because now I know when it does, and now I'm enjoying that ride, knowing what Lynch is doing here too. I mean, it's called The Return because it's Cooper's return,
and
it's
his return from the Black Lodge. Yep.
Yeah. You have to earn that fan service, and I love it. I enjoy it more. I can take in more of the humor. Again, like the Take 5 scene.
Oh God, yes.
The second time I watched it, it was like I was on the floor laughing, and then this is the third time I've gone through The Return for this podcast, and it's still freaking hilarious. He's like got the tie on his head, and it's like I'm in for the ride now. I'm like I don't have to like wondering what's happening.
Yes.
Also, as a Twin Peaks fan, these 4 episodes throw a lot of information at you.
A lot of information at you. They are really, they are setting the groundwork for what the other fucking 12 episodes are going to be, or 14 episodes are going to be.
Yeah, and so like the first time through is overwhelming. It's just a lot. It's information overload, but they have to. I mean, they just you have to set the groundwork for the story. And, Frost could only do so much with Secret History leading up to it because we don't want all these spoilers.
Right. And that's the other thing, too. Yeah, and it goes back to show that Secret History really helps when you get into it because it gives you the backstory. It makes some of the sense. We start learning why, when these fingerprints are a big deal and that there's other, if you didn't read it and you just came in from Twin Peaks, you're going to think Black Lodge, White Lodge in Twin Peaks only. No, they're all over. Again, I just keep going back to, I am so glad you and I got that book and went to that book signing and got that information because it did make, even going in the first time, a little bit smoother.
Yeah, it's like, it sets you up for both Tammy and Frank Truman. I mean, if I hadn't read that
Yes.
book, one, who's Tammy and why is she important?
Yep.
So like Frost gave her more depth, and then
Yep.
like Frank, is this is this supposed to be Harry Truman with a different actor, sort of thing? Even though like Lucy said, there's one sick, there's two Trumans. It's still, I think, we're just with all the information coming at you. These were kind of like softened a bit. So like, oh, that's Harry's brother.
Mhm.
I didn't have to overthink it or wonder because I had read the book.
Yep.
Maybe
You
some
weren't going.
people who had read the book were like, why is Robert Forrester Harry Truman?
Yeah. Wait. Who's Frank? Yeah. What the fuck is going on here? And you add the level of trying to figure out what the fuck's going on with Dougie Cooper would have been infuriating, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's where you have those two lines of fans. And something I want to bring up, because I'm not normally a fan of this, but in this case, I kind of have a problem. I mostly have a problem. I'm not going to say kind of. I mostly have a problem with storytelling across different mediums. It bothers me sometimes, especially I'll say like okay, in video games, right? I have a brood of children, and they're at the age where Kingdom Hearts is a game they want to play, and there is so many. The plot and the story goes so out there. I mean, it's very, when you really look at it, you can tell that they got a lot of their influence from Lynch's work, just the way the timelines, the jumping between people. It's very, very Lynchian, which is not an easy go for a fucking kid that's into Disney. Okay, it's just not an easy
Hey,
thing.
Lynch made a Disney movie. Straight playing on Disney Plus, man.
Yep. And
remember that, everybody. David Lynch made a Disney movie.
He did make a Disney movie, and if you haven't seen it, owe it to yourself to see it. And the game, it went from the PlayStation to the what was it? The one of the handhelds. I don't necessarily think it was. I think it was the Game Boy Advance, and then it went to another one. Then it went to another one. Then it went back to the place. It was bouncing all around, and in this too, there was books and comics and stories. And to me, that just feels like disingenuous. It's kind of like right now what's going on with Star Wars. There are so many comics and things like that trying to fill in the plot holes of what happened in those three movies that I don't care. You should have done it in the story in the three movies. With this, however, and with that movement and the time in between, it makes sense to me in this regards. Like I can appreciate it. Like for example, if they were going to make a Dune movie that was set after the events of Dune, and they make another book as a transition to the movie, I would understand that. If they had done that with Star Wars, it would have been years apart, and they're like, hey, you're going to want to get this book they never would do that with Star Wars because, my God, Disney wants to put out a Star Wars movie now every 2-3 years.
Well, at one point it was every year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I think that this part, it worked for me because it was part of the ride, know?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I like tie-in stuff. Like, I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like I'm not. It's just who I am. I'm not going to sit and read a book about Star Wars.
Right.
I'm just not. I'm not going to read a comic book about Star Wars. It's just who I am. But my fandom is Twin Peaks, so I'm going to be biased
right.
with these tie-ins, and it does help. But especially with something, especially when it's a project so cryptic from one of Hollywood's most cryptic filmmakers. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it. I appreciate it because it really kind of helps soften.
Yes, and I think the way that it was put together too, it wasn't a book. We weren't reading a novel, right? We weren't having to sit there and read these people, he said and she said. It was put in a form of informational data.
Yeah.
And I think that made it more seminal to us. We were able to ingest it easier than trying to read a story about Darth Vader's feelings or fucking what happened on planet Mafuku. I don't give a fuck.
And it also was done by one of the creators. It helps too. It seems like this was more. This doesn't seem like a cash grab. Like we're beating the dead horse of Star Wars here.
Yes.
But that's cash grab. That Disney paid billions of dollars for this thing. They're gonna bilk it as much as they can. I don't blame them. That's their business. That's what they do.
Yes.
Twin Peaks seemed like a passion project for Frost and Lynch to go back and do this. It didn't seem like they were in it for money, and obviously there wasn't a huge payday for Twin Peaks coming back.
No, there wasn't a huge payday coming back. And moving away from Star Wars, let's look at it from another angle. Would the MCU have been as good if you had to read comics and books in between each movie to understand what the fuck was going on?
Paul, I'm going to tell you something. I don't like the fact that I have to watch all these fucking Marvel movies to understand the one that I kind of want to see. That's been infuriating me because they put out like 16 movies in between Avengers movies, and I got to see this and that. And oddly, this is just a side rant. The only movies of the Marvel universe that I enjoy are the ones that really don't have much to do with the overall.
Like, which one did you enjoy? Which one?
Doctor Strange.
That's my favorite.
Doctor Strange. It was
my favorite too.
I mean, it was so cool. It was like visually stunning. I'm a sucker because they used Pink Floyd's Interstellar Overdrive in it.
Yes.
Benedict Cumberbatch did a good. I just butchered his name, but he does a great job as Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
I went in watching it not feeling like I needed the baggage of having to know what happened in Guardians of the Galaxy 5 and Captain America versus his mom or whatever. So again, to me, I just think it's just that's the Hollywood machine, and they're going to pump these out.
Yes,
but that's where Twin Peaks feels different. Twin Peaks is different than that.
It's very different than that, but I'm just saying, imagine, because it would have been very easy, because it's Marvel, right? Like, they're used to having books and graphic novels and comics. It would have been very, very easy cash grab for them to even do more and say, hey, in between this one, you got to read this book, or you got to read this graphic novel. It would not have gone over. It would not have worked at all. I think.
Well, you just build that into the world now, Paul, so wait for Marvel to announce the tie-in comic books.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Hang on, I gotta will in that Trump gets Voldemort. Okay. I don't care if I'm going to hell. Just at this point, I'm already in it. So, I think that's really this. And again, going in these 4 episodes, because again, we're repeating ourselves, but I just want to make it very clear that again, these dropped at the same time. So really, like Joe did, 1 through 4 we were absorbing all of it as fast as we could.
Yeah, in one night.
Yeah, and that maybe was not the right way to do it.
No. But yeah, it's it's more enjoyable going back and seeing. It's a different feel. It's a different ride. The first ride that's never going to happen again after you watch The Return.
Nope.
But you can appreciate the stuff that you missed, that you weren't looking at because you were busy trying to figure out something else. And that makes it much more enjoyable for me. And then, these bands at the end, I just loved. It's a great way to kind of just end it, break it up.
Yes.
Break up the episodes and end them like that. And even then, Lynch does some kind of cool and weird things with the Roadhouse. We'll get to that when he starts doing it. But yeah, he starts incorporating what we think is just these kind of concerts at the end. No, it gets more into the story.
It gets more into the story. As a matter of fact, one of them that we'll get into, a song I very much enjoyed, there's a lot of dialogue in it, and because there wasn't a soundtrack, the only way you could listen to that song was with the dialogue of the people talking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how it cut away from the band to focus on those people talking. And we talked about this, and I think I've said it numerous times. I really wish. I know it's never going to happen, but God, I wish there was a marathon mode.
It's. I'm sure somebody's made one.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there. I mean, if somebody put all the missing pieces back in a Fire Walk with Me, and made that available, it's out there. I mean, if it can be done, it's going to be out there. I mean, it's probably out there. I would be surprised if somebody hasn't done that already.
Yeah, I haven't really looked, to be honest with you. I should look and see if it's been done. Once we're done with the podcast, obviously, because I don't want to get too caught up now because I'm watching these ones week to week, which is driving me nuts. You know, that's a pet peeve of mine.
Yeah, I'm finding it tough to just watch the one episode and just stop cold. But I don't want to go far ahead and then try to remember what happened in the episode we're reviewing. That's why I'm doing it week to week.
Yep. And speaking of doing things week to week, Joe, what else do we do week to week?
We do other things. This week, for the Joe Down, we are doing Bull Durham.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a spoiler. I fucking hated that movie. Which I think it for the few people I've told, they seem kind of surprised by it, but yeah, I didn't enjoy it. Yeah, so what's going on with you and Cast That Movie?
Well, with Cast That Movie, which will be coming up here, we record every 2 weeks. What are we doing? Oh, yes, we are doing Sphere for our recast. We are doing the movie Sphere. So that should be really interesting for you guys. I'll keep the Dream Project a little down. Joe, I want to mention to you, the joedown.blog, where everything resides on, was featured in the Minnesota Films Critics Alliance newsletter.
Awesome. Yeah. I saw that today. I was I was on the road most of the day today, driving. So I didn't see any of this until I got home. So yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
and they plug. I think they plugged our podcast too on that.
Yes, they plugged the Twin Peaks podcast, the Office podcast, as well as Mr. Baseball. Yep.
Oh, you guys should have done a pod. You should have done a cast this week. You would have gotten a plug.
We would have gotten a plug, but I think this is something that is going to be, they're going to be kind of focusing on. I think is this newsletter to kind of get people out there listening to things locally. So yeah, here you apparently
it's very hyperly local in the Minnesota area, or at least in this general area. Even though I kind of cheat since I'm in Fargo, North Dakota,
yeah.
But I mean I'm just across the river from Minnesota, so it's not.
Well, and you're a Minnesota boy. Let's be honest, you are.
It's not. Let's just. I'm a central Minnesota boy. That's not exactly something to be proud about.
No, especially with the Walmart thing that happened. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. So we got the Office one that we're doing as well, which also is a pet peeve of mine, which I have to watch things weekly.
I love that this is driving you nuts because I figured this was the Office was going to be a show that you're going to want to go all in on, and you can't.
I can't. I know I can't. It's right now. It's okay right now because again we just went through the first season and we've kind of discussed it that most people start on the second season and say that's the official start of the show. So I dip my toes in the water.
Yep, and then this episode this week for Bears, Beats, and Bobbleheads. It's there's one thing that it's kind of an ongoing thread in our podcast is my shock of recognition with Stanley's basketball playing. It's the basketball episode where
yes, it is the basketball episode.
The Office plays the warehouse in a game of hoops over who's going to work the weekend.
Yes, and again, it was my first time ever seeing it. So if you want to listen to that, jump on over. Everything you can find is on the joedown.blog. We got links to our YouTube. We got links to the SoundClouds. We are now on Google Podcasts. We're up and running on Google Podcast. So now we got Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud.
Nice. So there's no reason not to listen to us talk, people.
No, there really isn't. And so I guess that's all I got going on. Anything else, Joe?
I don't really have anything else on my plate. This week, Bull Durham. Next week's Joe Down. I'm excited for Foxcatcher.
Yes.
Interesting story. If none of you have looked into it, the heir of the DuPont fortune really got into wrestling.
Oh God! And yes,
played by Michael Scott himself, Steve Carell.
Yes, this is a fascinating story. And when this movie came out, I went all in. You know me and my going all in on things because I was like, this can't be as bizarre as what it shows. And
it's more bizarre.
It's more bizarre than what it shows.
Yeah, Netflix had that documentary on it. And I think there's an ESPN 30 for 30 on it too. Maybe that's the same thing I'm thinking about, but yeah, holy buckets, it's weird, man. It's a weird story.
Weird. It's super, super weird. And it's dark. It's dark.
Yeah.
It's a dark story.
Yeah, but it doesn't get any bluer than this, Paul.